Hey guys, welcome to TheBossFighter, the show where we battle and defeat some of the biggest foes gaming has to offer, and then rank them in order from worst to best. In this episode, I'm very happy to say we're ranking every boss in the most underrated entry in the Arkhamverse, Batman Arkham Origins. This game is definitely the most disliked by fans and has some of the worst reputation in the entire series, which kinda confuses me, because it's an all-around phenomenal game with some of the best fights in the series. But anyway, I don't want to waste any more of your time, so let's just get straight into the ranking, starting with number 12. Okay, now some of you might have already clicked off the video because you're probably expecting somebody else to take this spot, but sorry not sorry, this fight kinda sucks. Bird was the first Lieutenant of Bane and was considered to be an extremely loyal and dangerous foe in the eyes of Gotham. It's a shame we never saw this reputation put into action, however, because this guy is an absolute joke. He has no unique attacks, no interesting boss mechanics, even his boss health meter is the same as the enemies around him. For those reasons, this fight is by far the worst Arkham Origins has to offer, and it's not even close. So this is where you could argue the official boss rankings really begin, because Anarky is a great improvement in the right direction. The fight begins with Anarky throwing Molotovs at you from a tower while you battle the thugs below, and after defeating a few waves, he'll jump into the arena and join the final wave. While this phase was very reminiscent of Bird with Anarky acting as a normal enemy compared to a boss, I'll give it a pass because it makes a lot of sense in the context of his lore. Anarky is only a child tired of Gotham's corruption, which led him to sadistic terrorism. Despite the lazy boss design and the not really so much engaging fight, I still enjoyed it for what it was and wasn't exactly disappointed. Oh boy, this fight is... ooh. The Mr. Freeze boss fight is, in my opinion, the most disappointing fight in the whole Arkham series. This fight plays very similarly to the fight in Arkham City, but without any of the clever player freedom that made that fight so engaging. The fight begins with you blowing up some cryo tanks that freeze up the arena for phase 2, but unfortunately what severely ruins the second phase is just the quantity of enemies. There's 5 armed goons following Freeze throughout the arena at all times, and they all respawn about a minute after you take them all out, which already takes away any player choice and reward from taking out each thug tactically so you can engage Freeze on a one-on-one, but for some reason they also heavily restricted your options for taking Freeze out this time. Once you stealth takedown him a single time, he raises his defenses, making it impossible to engage him head on, which will then result to you taking him down in the most boring way imaginable. An icicle to the face. Well, 8 of them anyway, 9, maybe 10, I honestly couldn't keep count, dude. Please let me know in the comments if I was playing this fight wrong, because this method honestly felt way too boring for a fight that had so much potential. To be honest, my exact same thoughts for Mr. Freeze mostly apply here. Firefly is just an incredibly boring fight, however there is a unique gimmick that gives this a step up over Freeze. Firefly flies throughout the arena, throwing a variety of fire-based projectile and AoE attacks at you that constantly keep you moving and constantly keep you on edge. The only way to damage Firefly is by throwing batarangs at him during his cooldown in between attacks. After you deal enough damage, you get the opportunity to glue him up and reel him in like fish into bait. I think my only issue with this fight is how you can only really engage him in 2 ways that doesn't allow for a lot of player choice. I'm also not a big fan of the whole cinematic feel to these kind of fights, because my issue with this is when it feels too scripted, the battle becomes more and more boring on subsequent playthroughs. However, it cannot be denied that this boss is one of the most most impressive set pieces in the game, especially for the first time when you experience it. And the award to the most forgettable fight in Arkham Origins goes to... okay, well, it's not that bad. This fight is just kind of meh. The only reason SHEVA is this high is because she adopts the fighting style of the funnest enemy type in the game, the martial artist. There's not much to comment on about the actual fight itself, besides the fact that she's just basically a stronger version of the average enemy. There's a few cinematic moments to break up the phases, and the reveal of her being an apprentice of Ra's al Ghul is really interesting. But ultimately, this is just a slightly disappointing battle that had the potential to be so much more. In my opinion, Killer Croc is the absolute perfect starting boss for any of these games. He's just challenging enough to give most new players a hard time for the opening 30 minutes of experience they had, while also being completely fair with a number of exploits that make him an absolute pushover if you can utilize them. Croc has a limited moveset where he'll either slash at you, pick up a number of fuel canisters around the arena to throw at you, or lunge towards you and try to eat your fucking face off. But for some reason though, I'm not sure if he was from this dimension, because Croc was phasing throughout the fucking multiverse throughout this entire fight. Apparently this is a big issue on PC and a lot of streamers have gone through this issue. But who cares, dude? This is just such a funny meme. I love this. This is where these boss fights get good, and I mean very good. First off, the design of Bane is excellent. He captures both the intimidating presence of his pure masculine strength and the cunning intelligence that most adaptations of this character lacks. The fight itself is simple, but challenging in all the right ways. The first phase of the fight takes place in a library where the game introduces the venom mechanic and how dangerous Bane is as a foe, but very soon after that, Bane throws Batman through a window and the fight takes place on a rooftop. What I love about this fight is how you have to approach Bane in two completely different ways. When he's in Venom mode, he becomes more aggressive, his attacks deal more damage, he becomes more dangerous, and you're way more liable to grab attacks, and trust me dudes, you don't want to get grabbed by these things. But when he's off the drugs, he's just a regular heavy enemy that can be baited into easy combos that deal massive damage. My only issue with this fight is the shot gloves, and how they can make this entire boss feel a bit too easy, especially if you're on PC, because you're most definitely gonna accidentally activate these things and just fucking destroy Bane. But besides that, this fight lives up to the hype and nicely transitions us into the top 5. Okay, this is like my 7th fucking time recording this section. I don't know why it's taking me this long. Let's try again. First things first, this fight is absolutely terrifying. Imagine pissing off the beefiest dude in your local gym and getting chased around the entire center for what feels like an eternity. That's what this fight feels like. What gives this fight the step up from the previous is just the raw atmosphere that accompanies this battle. Bane will stalk you throughout the prison block as he supposedly becomes stronger by the minute as the new strain of venom circulates his body. I have no idea if this has any effect on the gameplay whatsoever, but it definitely adds some tension knowing he's becoming stronger by the minute. And you know what? This is the fight Mr. Freeze wishes it could be, because it's fair, it's fun, it's actually pretty scary, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. A very good final boss for this fantastic game to end on. Coming in at number 3, we have Copperhead. Now, besides this boss being a discount Ra's al Ghul, I still believe there are many things to love about this fight. Copperhead is the only boss in the game that is more of a psychological foe rather than a direct threat. She uses her toxin to cause Batman to hallucinate some of his greatest failures, which creates some really fun and engaging stakes that builds up to the boss encounter. Thankfully, the fight itself is challenging and rewarding in all the right ways a gang fight should be. Copperhead will duplicate herself around the arena, creating at least 50 mimics of herself, which can all be taken out with a basic combo counter. Fighting Copperhead variants is like fighting 50 thugs with knives at once, but with far more aggression in each attack. This is probably my favorite endurance fight in the whole series because the encounter is not only relentless with its difficulty considering there's no checkpoints in the fight, it's also quite long and requires the absolute most focus and patience compared to any other fight in this game. My only issue with this fight is that it ends very abruptly in kind of an unsatisfying way, but that's just my opinion. This fight is excellent and I fucking love it. I know you guys were expecting Deathstroke to be in number 1, but please let me explain myself. Deathstroke took me 6 years to beat. Yes, you heard that right. When I was younger, being 10 years old, for some reason I didn't know what hints were, so I turned them off. I didn't know how to counter any attack in the game or Deathstroke's attacks properly. This resulted in me throwing the game in the bin and then attempting the fight again 2 years later. Long story short, I still struggled and tried again 2 years later and snapped my disc in half through rage. 2 years after that, I finally realized what hints were and discovered the counter indicator, which led me to victory after 6 years of ass beatings. So yeah, this fight is very difficult, but for completely fair reasons. Chances are every player up until this point in the game has kicked the crap out of every enemy with relative ease, until they reach this guy, and that's for one reason. He punishes the greedy. Deathstroke forces you to play tactically and patiently. Every combo you attempt to perform will be countered by his combo, which will then lead into a cinematic animation where you will get multiple opportunities to counter Deathstroke's attacks. My issue with this fight is the very scripted nature of the battle. Most of the fight is countering highly entertaining animations, which works just fine as a gimmick, but on subsequent playthroughs the difficulty kinda becomes non-existent because you're too familiarized with the timings. I think this fight just needed 1 or 2 more ways to engage Deathstroke as a boss that allows for more player choice, but besides this criticism, it's a phenomenal fight that captures the essence of what a great boss design is. Also, come on dude, the music is fucking excellent. And my number 1 pick for the best boss in Arkham Origins goes to the world's greatest assassin. This fight has everything I could ask for in a Predator encounter. A great build-up, fun boss mechanics, challenging but immersive encounter design, and fantastic music. Deadshot acts like an advanced enemy type that feels unique like Deathstroke or Bane. He stalks the arena using his wrist cannons, which has dynamic lasers that bounce off the walls, constantly keeping you on edge. This allows for a lot of unpredictable moments where your location will be revealed on a moment's notice, and test your improvisational skills to see how quickly you adapt to sudden danger. The arena allows for a lot of fun and dynamic ways to take Deadshot out, even though you're most likely going to take everyone out first, which kind of turns this boss into a cakewalk. Once you deal 75% damage, he'll take a hostage and threaten to kill her if he sees you. This is a really fun nod to Arkham City and how you had to wait for his lasers to pass before you engage him. My only issue with this fight is that when it's you and him face to face, he only shoots you with minimal damage, and I mean minimal. Guns from basic enemies do more damage than his pathetic laser cannon. They should have made his wrist cannon pack way more of a punch, or maybe given him some close-quartered combat attacks that make him more of a threat instead of a red punching bag. Besides that, this is my completely biased and unsubjective spot for the greatest boss battle in Batman Arkham Origins. Thanks for watching everybody, hope you enjoyed the ranking. Feel free to type away your own rankings in the comments so we can talk about and discuss the greatest boss battles in Batman Arkham Origins. Like and subscribe to see more future rankings, and I'll see you next week with Batman Arkham Asylum. Have a nice day guys!